apologize for interrupting you. You were talking about your students and going through these kind of the motions and how we kind of get complacent over time when we, and you just kind of, you have a human factor. It's that whole shock, that initial reaction to, oh shit, is this really happening? And that's a normal human behavior. And what our training really is all about is reacting in a manner which we minimize that shock factor and go into our automatic recovery technique, memory items, memory profiles. And you weren't seeing that from people. Now, were these new people on the aircraft? Because you're not giving type ratings, you're giving training.
Correct. And these were recurrents. This was not initial courses. These were people, all of them. The newest one, this was their third time through training. That was the most recent. But, it goes back to what Captain Chris had just said. It's denial. And we all do it, Is this really happening? But like you said, there's an element of time that comes with that. And unfortunately, most of the time, I don't think that, that 1 or 2 seconds, most of the time is not going to be the factor between life and death. But sometimes, unfortunately, it is. And just from that training environment, and I'm sure that you guys have seen it too, obviously for the amount of time that you've been around, it is real. It is something that we always need to be aware of, even though, if we're all being honest with each other, we're all guilty of it also.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, we were kind of talking about this, and lately, anybody that's on social media knows that there's been a video that recently got posted of a Cessna 172 doing some training. Now, you have the luxury of being in a simulator. And in the simulator, it's a safe environment. You're not going to go home with a bloody nose or a broken arm, if not worse, if you muck up your training. But not everyone has the ability to use a simulator, especially in general aviation, and especially when you're dealing with a Cessna 172. So this video came up, and I saw this, and I just have to share it with you. So I'm going to share screen here. And let's take a look at how it could go terribly wrong. Touchdown. Oh, nice. And so the student puts the gear up instead of flaps up. Okay, so anyone, and I'll post this on YouTube later, but so what's the lesson here? And for those of you listening on the podcast, you don't have the video, let me give you a rundown of what we just saw. So it's like a GoPro camera sitting in the middle on the rear bulkhead of the cockpit there in the 172, and it's capturing really over the shoulder of both pilots, and you can see they're on short final. Now, number one rule, right? Sterile cockpit. Now, you're in a training environment, so the only thing you can talk about is what is pertinent to the flight or the training. The instructor mentioning on the short final, those guys aren't professional pilots like we are. Okay, that's not really pertinent to training. That's okay, I got you there. That's not a big deal. So they touch down. They're doing a touch and go procedure. And this is a retractable gear aircraft, whatever it is. And they touch down. And as soon as you touch down, now you have to take off again. So you have to get configured for takeoff configuration. Now, that particular aircraft, I don't know, he said, I don't know the legitimacy of this video, but it is, we're using it as a lesson, a learning lesson here. And he says, flaps up. And the student says, okay, gear up. And he puts the gear up. Now, what happens is the left main landing gear comes up, collapses the aircraft. This tricycle gear aircraft now is leaning to the left side and scraping the left wingtip. And he says, what the hell are you doing? A couple expletives go out there, and the FO, or the student pilot, looks over and says, well, you said gear up. And he says, I said flaps up, you idiot. So this is how things can go very wrong here really fast. And it's just a matter of being diligent and really listening up and not Jackie Channing the controls. So yeah, it happens, but that was a very costly one.